This is Lorena Mora-Mowry of Mujer Latina Today. We are interviewing today Lily Cabanot, the Executive Director, Ohio Latino Affairs Commission. Welcome to Mujer Latina Today.
Thank you, Lorena. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
I participated, and you organized the Latino Education Summit. How was it?
It was a very important Latino education summit in the sense that we were concentrating on learning from each other and sharing best practices. And that gives a different focus to this event. Usually when we come together in this kind of gatherings in regards to education, we spend quite a bit of time talking about what might be the challenges or the roadblocks that are not allowing us to continue to build success. However, the emphasis that we wanted to give to this education summit was to concentrate on what is working. What are some of those best practices that are already being implemented across the state that other organizations and groups from other places in Ohio can learn from each other, can share those experiences, can talk about what is working and how it's working and what might have been some of the challenges that they faced as they were trying to implement these programs and how they were able to resolve them. We had over 100 folks that came together for a full day of conversations, and they represented a wide spectrum from legislators who co-chaired the event to public officials, school administrators, college admission officers, recruiters, community leaders, students, parents, high school and elementary school leaders that are involved in trying to bring these opportunities to our community.
You talk about challenges and sharing experiences, and there are organizations that are already working to help our community. We will be talking about the report. What is the big challenge that you were able to learn that day from all these organizations?
Well, the complexity of our communities is really interesting because if you were to ask that question from a Cleveland school district, you will receive a very different answer than if you were talking to somebody from, Cincinnati. Although there are some common trends, access to education is one of the common trends, and we have known that for a long time. The emphasis that we had during the summit is not what is the problem, access to education, but how are we able to increase access to educational opportunities. So not so much about, what is the challenge itself, but the how are we overcoming that challenge. So when we speak about, the lack of opportunities for parents to become fully engaged in the educational process of their children, and to increase the awareness and understanding within school districts about the cultural phenomena that affects the perception that parents may have in regards to education and what role they can play or should play. And, traditionally speaking, in many Latin American countries, parents pretty much rely or trust on schools to handle the whole education process. That emphasis on parent involvement is not as critical as it is in this country. So there are so many different factors that come into play. And the key emphasis and the color that we wanted to give to the event is how are you overcoming these challenges? What are some of the ideas that you are able to implement in your community? And what has been the reaction, whether positive or negative, from the entire spectrum? The educators, the administrators, the parents, and of course, most important, the students.
Lily, I was there, and I saw a lot of let's work together for our community, from Cleveland to Dayton, from Oxford to Toledo. But let's talk about the report because it's already at the OSHLA website. Let's go to the report and let's talk about what you can find, what people can find in this report. And it's a very interactive report. So let's talk about this report.
Sure. The key way for us to stay connected is to use these technology tools that enable us to do more with the group. As we said during our conversations, the summit was not an end in itself. It is hopefully the beginning of an ongoing process where we can continue to learn from each other, to collaborate. We know that numbers are important and they bring strength to any type of programming or to the impact that our work has in the communities. So what we have done is we have created within our website a page where we are going to be bringing together all the resources on the Latino Education Summit. This page is divided into three sections. The center part of the page explains what the Latino Health Summit's goals and objectives are. And also it gives a bit more detail as to who are the people that are involved in the summit. On the resource section of our report, which is going to be on the left side of the page, you find a series of videos. The first one that is there is the First Lady Karen Kasich's message to the summit participants, which she shares with us what are the priorities for the administration in the area of education, and most importantly, how committed they are to working with our communities, because the administration realizes that education is the path to workforce and economic development, and they are very aware of that need within our communities. Secondly, we have a couple of videos of best practices. As we mentioned earlier, the whole purpose of this event is to share best practices. So, a picture is better than 1,000 words. We are sharing some of these right here on our website, and we hope to continue to build that information. Towards the right side of the page, you find the presentations, which are detailed descriptions of the different programs that were presented at the conference. And they really clearly explain and show how we are succeeding at overcoming challenges. So what are the next steps? We talk about the report. And so what we did is we shared information in conversation tables, and we posed 5 key questions to the audience where we were asking, with what you have heard today, with what we are learning here today, what are some of the things that can be done to continue in this improvement process? And so that conversation table summary report outlines some of those questions and the answers that we receive from all these different leaders, from all these different target audiences from across the state.
Lily, let's talk about the best practices and the group conversations. They were brainstorming. Explain about, let's choose one of the questions and explain to me what was the importance of this brainstorming and this roundtable discussion.
Sure. For example, on question number 1, you can see that there's a clear question which is asking, what are some of the best practices that might be useful in the different regions? So as we were reviewing the feedback that we received from the tables, there were certain themes that came about. So one important theme was, strengthening new communities. How can you work with specific projects or regions of the state that need this kind of interaction? For example, one of the recommendations that the group made is that in the area of Lake County, where we have in Painesville, and we have, a really, really large Hispanic community, they want to see an organization or a group come together that can be modeled after possibly the program for Esperanza or the program of El Puente, which are already successful programs, to become established in that community. The Closing the Achievement Gap in Cleveland program is a very, very wonderful program where they have networked and included leaders in the community to work with them for that. And it's so successful that they are suggesting, let's bring that all across the state. So the report really is mentioning many areas where we can continue to succeed. The next steps are to engage the people that were part of the summit to work on one of those specific questions and to move forward some clear, defined goals for each one of those key areas, so that next year when we come together for the summit, we are going to be able to report back and to make an assessment and evaluate how how were we able to implement some of these other ideas across the state? What worked, what did not, who are the partners, and who might be some of the other forces that need to be invited to come to the table to continue to help us improve this process.
Working together to help our community united. I remember that you said that we need to work together. This report is available to everyone. People that they don't can request a written report to your office.
Sure, and we want to make sure that this becomes available online. We know that a lot of that information is excellent raw data that can be used by some folks around the state who might be trying to better understand not only the needs in the Hispanic community, but we must understand that there are a lot of immigrants and new Americans throughout the state. And for the most part, the same challenges and the same opportunities apply to the different immigrant and migrant communities. So this may be something that can provide with good information to people who are working in education. And as always, we're ready to help and assist in every way we can to continue this conversation. And more important than the conversation, to implement action steps that bring us closer to increasing educational opportunities that result in better trained workforce, in better economic opportunities for our families, and in the opportunity to succeed for our youth.
Thank you so much for giving opportunity to share the report, and have a good day.
Thank you.